New driver season is officially here, and once again, prices have gone up. This year, TaylorMade is asking £549 for a new driver, and most of the big brands will most likely not be far behind. And as always, the marketing message is exactly the same: longer, faster, more forgiving than ever. But here's the question I want you to sit with for a second. If new drivers genuinely delivered what the marketing promises every year, why aren't golfers getting dramatically better every year? Today, I want to strip away the hype and look at new drivers the same way I'd look at any financial decision, by analyzing price, value, and return on investment. And if you stay until the end, I'll tell you exactly when buying a new driver actually makes sense and when it really doesn't. Let's start with the numbers, because this is where things become very, very uncomfortable very quickly. Back in 2015, a flagship driver from a major brand typically cost around £349. Fast forward to 2026, and that same flagship category now costs £549. That's an increase of roughly 57% over 11 years. Now, let's break down year by year, because this is where the pattern becomes obvious. From 2015 to 2016, prices rose around 3 to 4%. From 2016 to 2017, another 3%. Between 2017 and 2019, roughly 4 to 5% per year. From 2020 onwards, things accelerated. We saw annual increases closer to 6 to 8% year after year. Now compare that to the UK CPI, for example. Over the same period, average CPI inflation has been closer to 3 to 4% annually, and that includes the recent inflation spike in the last few years, which means driver prices have been rising at faster than the rate of inflation for more than a decade. Having said that, if you are in the market for a new driver, let me know in the comment which one caught your eye. So the first question we should all be asking is very simple. Are drivers really improving at faster than the pace of the cost of living? And once you realize how aggressively prices have moved, you're actually forced to look at the justification for those increases, which brings us directly to all the marketing claims. Every major brand uses slightly different languages, but the message is quite identical. You'll hear things like more ball speed across the face, AI design faces, revolutionary carbon construction, lower spin, higher launch, forgiveness without sacrificing distance. TaylorMade talks about carbon faces and inertia generators. Callaway leans heavily into artificial intelligence. Titleist focuses on precision engineering and tool validation. Ping emphasizes stability and MOI, and Cobra highlights aerodynamics and speed. All of it sounds incredibly sophisticated, but here's the part that really matters. All of this optimization is happening within extremely tight regulatory limits. The face can't get hotter, ball speed is capped, and the rules haven't changed, which means these so-called breakthroughs are not step changes. They are simply incremental refinements, often measured under robotic testing conditions with perfect strikes. In other words, the technology is real, but the gains are marginal. And that leads to the most important point of all: how this actually translates to real amateur golfers. Here's the reality most marketing never shows. The average golfer does not strike the center of the face consistently. Swing speed varies. Strike location varies. Delivery varies. So when a brand says faster across the face, what they really mean is, in controlled testing under ideal conditions, we measured a small improvement. But in the real world, if you're losing 30 or 40 yards because of strike quality or face angle, 1 or 2 mile per hour ball speed gain is irrelevant. From a finance perspective, this is a classic diminishing return problem. You're paying a premium price for marginal gains, gains that most golfers will never actually realize. And nowhere is this misunderstanding more obvious than with one word golfers love to hear: forgiveness. That word alone has sold millions of drivers. But forgiveness doesn't mean what most golfers think it does. It doesn't fix your swing. It doesn't fix face angle. It doesn't fix poor decision making or bad delivery. All forgiveness does is slightly reduce punishment on off-center strike. And here's the uncomfortable truth. For most golfers, a driver from 2 or even 3 generations ago is already more forgiving than they will ever fully utilize. The idea that this year's model suddenly unlocks a level of forgiveness you never had before is, in most cases, an illusion. So if performance gains are marginal and prices keep rising, why does this cycle continue so successfully? Here's the business reality of it. Golf manufacturers must sell new drivers every year. They cannot just say, oh, last year's model is probably good enough for you. No. So every season they reset the narrative. New colors, new names, new buzzwords, same promises, because they have to satisfy their shareholders. From a treasury mindset, this isn't true innovation. It's called product cycling, designed to justify price increases. And it works because golfers buy emotionally. One bad drive, one bad round, one comparison video or test on YouTube, and suddenly the credit card comes out. Now, to be clear, this isn't about never buying a new driver. We all love new shiny stuff. And sometimes it genuinely makes sense. Buying a new driver can absolutely be justified if your current one is 6, 7, or 8 years old. If the loft is wrong, or if your swing speed has changed significantly over the past few years, or if your driver is damaged or poorly fit. In those cases, upgrading can help, but then by all means, give them a try. But buying the latest model every single year at inflation-beating price increases, that is almost never a smart golfing decision, or a smart financial one for that matter. Here's the boring, effective alternative most golfers ignore. Buy a driver from 1 or 2 generations ago. Get the loft right, focus on strike quality and decision making on the course. You will save hundreds of pounds, you will perform just the same, and you'll stop chasing improvements that don't exist. From a finance point of view, this is simply better capital allocation. You put your money where the return is highest. New driver season is exciting, I get it, but excitement is expensive. I haven't had a chance to test any of these new drivers yet, unfortunately. Maybe if somebody wants to send me one, then maybe they are great. But before you spend £549 on promises and marketing claims, ask yourself this. What problem am I actually solving? Is this really a need, or is this a reaction? Golf doesn't get cheaper just because of marketing. It gets cheaper when golfers think clearly and make better decisions. If you want more content that cuts through golf hype and helps you spend smarter, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next one.